Hello, and I want to welcome you to a discussion on solving a quadratic equation by the completing the square examples. So here are some things to consider and the procedures. If ax squared plus bx plus c will not factor, convert the equation into an equivalent equation that can be solved using the square the root property. If the coefficient of x squared term is 1, add the square of half the coefficient of x to both sides of the equation. This will allow ax squared plus bx plus c to factor and then can be solved using the square root property. The coefficient of x squared must be 1. It is easier to work with the coefficient of x is even. When it is even, it is best to work with. So let's just go through and try to understand what this is talking about. If we look at number 1, x squared plus 4x equals 9. If we were to move 9 to the other side by subtracting it, you would note that you would not be able to factor because the factors of 9 will not combine to give you a negative 4 in any way you may try. So, what this is saying is that the coefficient of just the plain x, or in this case, the x that does not have an x squared, or just the simple x, the coefficient is negative 4 in this case. So to complete this square, you take the number that it just has the plain x attached to it, which, as we said before, is negative 4 in this case. What you want to do is divide it by 2 and square. So take it through the procedure. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Then you need to square it, so negative 2 squared is 4. And the number that after you do that little procedure to is what you're going to add to both sides of the equation, making sure that the number that will not factor, or the c term, which in this case is 9, is moved to the other side of the equation. So this was already done for us, so take this 4 and add it to both sides of the equation. When we do that, we get x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 9 plus 4, or just 13. Note that x squared minus 4x plus 4 can be factored, and you can either use your different rules and techniques to do that, or the best thing to do is just look at this number that we did this procedure to before we squared it, which in this case is negative 2. So just pick the number that you got and grab it and place x, your variable, minus 2. And the minus 2 came from the number before we squared. And just put parentheses around it and square it, equaling the number that we had before, which was just 13. From this procedure, we either could factor this into x minus 2 and x minus 2, which combine just to give you x minus 2 squared, or you could just take our procedure, and the second step after dividing by 2 before squaring is the number that you'll just place in there with x, making the whole term squared. Now using the square root property, that means just to take the square root of both sides of the equation. The square root and this square will cancel out, leaving you with just x minus 2 equals, once you take the square root of a number, you have both positive and negative versions of that number. So we have this plus or minus the square root of 13. Now to get x by itself, what you want to do is to separate this into two equations. X minus 2 minus the square root of 13, and x minus 2 equals the positive square root of 13. Okay, so now solving for the variable, we want to add 2 to both sides. So x equals a negative square root of 13 plus 2. Please note that you cannot add 2 under the radical because it does not itself have a radical 13 attached to it, meaning it would have like terms. So that is one solution. Now the other solution, we have to add 2 to both sides. So we're going to have x equals a positive square root of 13 plus 2. and that is going to be the other solution to the problem. So let's now look at number 2, and I will do this in a different color ink so that we not get the two problems confused. Okay, looking, we need to note that if 16 or negative 16 has any factors, that when you bring them together will give you a positive 6. And I believe if you try to do that, you will not get anything that will work. So we have to add 16 to both sides. So we're going to have x squared plus 6x. Let's leave a blank space equals 16. Now let's actually go through and use our procedure of taking the term that just has the plain x, no x squared, no just regular number, just the variable and its coefficient. Take the coefficient, which in this case is going to be 6. Let's divide it by 2 and square it. And taking it through the procedure, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Then we square. So 3 squared is 9. 9 is the number that we need to add to both sides of the equation. When we do that, we have x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 16 plus 9, which is just 25. Okay, now to factor x squared plus 6x plus 9, you could either think of that in factoring, that would be the terms x plus 3 and x plus 3, which combined gives you x plus 3 quantity squared, or you could think of it in the terms of just taking our variable x and then capturing the number of the b term, which is 6, divided by 2, and the sign of it, which is positive 3, and just writing plus 3 in quantity squared equals 25. So now, to start working with a variable, we have to use the square root property. Take square root of both sides of the equation. So that's going to leave you with x plus 3 equals, remember, a square root gives you both positive and negative of an answer. Square root of 25 is 5. This breaks into two pieces of x plus 3 equals a negative 5. And x plus 3 equals a positive 5. Now to solve for the variable, we want to subtract 3 on both sides. So we have x equals negative 5 minus 3, or just x equals a negative 8 as one solution. The other solution, we have x plus 3 equals 5 to solve for the variable. Subtract by 3 on both sides. So x equals 5 minus 3, or just x equals a positive 2.